You've got your creatures, you've got your spells, you've got your lands. There's tens of thousands of cards that you can use, and you just come up with decks and just like battle each other with them. A lot of my childhood friends that I went to high school with, they play as well. So we play at home, but then when I go into the store, there's a bunch of people who play there as well. If we're hanging out at home, it'll either be going out drinking, hitting the pub, or just like playing video games. No need to wear normal pants. These are my day pants. They're comfy. I was wearing jeans this morning and I had to change because I just couldn't deal with it. It's too much. I chose this tournament because it's the only chance that I've had to play this format in England. And at £25 entry, £20 is going towards the entry fee. So if we get 40 people, then the prize is quite large. At the end of the day, I just want to have a good time, but if I make back the train fee and make back what I paid for entry, I wouldn't argue.
We will shortly be arriving at Waterloo East. Please check that you have all of your personal belongings with you when leaving the train.
In Australia, I go to a lot of tournaments, but I haven't played too much in England, just because there's not as many people who play down in Brighton. Well, Magic the Gathering, you've got a deck of 60 cards and they consist of creatures, lands and spells. Your intention is to get your opponent's life points down from 20 to 0, and you can do that using a variety of different decks.
It's like a game of chess, but you have about 10,000 pieces to choose between, and they all do different things.
You have to build the board, you have to think like 4 or 5 turns ahead, you have to consider what you have, what your opponent has, and then there's like poker elements of luck, chance and variance. So yeah, it's definitely a thinking man's game.
So for the Legacy tournament, the turnout was about 30 people, and that meant that there would be 6 rounds, and each round is a best of 3. So if you win 2 games, then you win the round. Oh, fuck. My sleeve is broken. Yeah, it's cut there. And if they pick up on that, then it could be a disqualification. Like, there's the initial stress for playing competitively with large prizes on the line, but at the end of the day, it does come down to playing with people that you're familiar with and meeting new people, and that kind of eases the stress and the tension involved in playing at such a competitive level. There's certain matchups that I don't want to come up against. Not necessarily people, it's more so the decks that they're playing that I would rather not face. I think people view it with the stereotype that it's played by nerds, mainly because they don't understand it. Like, there's a lot of complexity to the game, and it's not something you can just like jump right into and completely understand.
So there's a little bit of a negative stigma with it as well. I don't really agree with it, but basically anything like this, people kind of view it as a little bit childish.
Fantasy's gotten a lot bigger in the media. I mean, it started probably with Lord of the Rings about 10 years ago, and then stuff like Game of Thrones, which is getting really, really popular. Fantasy's not exactly, it's more mainstream than it used to be.
It wasn't until the start of university where I went into my local game store and just said, how do I get into playing competitively and just hanging out with you guys? So we built some decks and we chatted shit for a while, and every Friday night I was going there, meeting new people, and definitely helped develop like a new friendship group that I hadn't been able to make outside of uni or high school.
We just travel to the events and go out drinking afterwards, so we kind of just mix it in with other stuff, you know, as long as you don't let it be the only thing that you do.
The game has broadened a bit more in the last 5 or 10 years, so you are getting more different types of people coming, you can say.
In my local store, there's about 20% women. I definitely love to see more women in the game because it's something that obviously everyone can play, from 10-year-olds who often beat me to people. We've got someone who comes in who's 60 or so and he's still having a good time.
It's unusual to be a girl playing Magic at the moment. And traditionally, girls don't tend to play games as much as guys. I think that is starting to change.
People have got more welcoming to new players, so it's definitely opened up.
Yesterday, this one was won by a friend of mine who's only 17, and he played that really well to get that big tournament, 310 people, and a 17-year-old just kicked all their asses.
I find that the Magic community is really close because like one common interest that brings everyone together, and no matter how much you know about the game or how little you know about the game, it's still a topic that you're all able to talk about and like bond over. Yeah, round one was good because I got like the nut straw, which is exactly what you want when I'm playing a combo deck. I got all the cards I needed, and it was really good, and the guy scooped, which meant that I had the first game on the first turn. I was able to draw my Reanimate, my Griselbrand, my Thoughtseize, my Swamp, Lotus Petal, and I had my own Force of Will and Careful Study. He played his Force of Will and countered my Reanimate spell, but then I was able to counter his spell with my own Force of Will. He was really concerned about winning. He just wanted to get there, and he was playing a really slow deck, so he was pressuring me to hurry up in the later stages of the game. But at the end of the day, we talked after the game. He explained why he was doing that, and that was all fine. So he was good.
In the competitive arena, there are some very desperate to win people, and if you disturb them, they don't like it. It's a very absorbing game, and surprisingly, it can be quite draining at the end of the day, because you wouldn't think it, but you are concentrating the entire time. So you are using your mind for about 8 or 9 hours, and it's quite absorbing.
So a bunch of people turned up, so the prize turned out to be £600, and that was split between the top 8. It probably worked out to be the top one getting about 320, and then it decreased from there, with the rest of them getting like incrementally smaller amounts.
A couple of years ago, a mate of mine stopped playing and bought individual packets and sold the individual cards, and that his business is now a £4 million business.
There's people who just travel all over the country following these tournament circuits, and each weekend they'll play a tournament like this one for like $5,000, and basically they travel, they play Magic, and they write about Magic.
America has the biggest amount of players, so that's why they're on top. China and other countries in Asia do very well. We're probably about the 6th or 7th in the world at the moment, so it's not bad.
It's really great that Magic, it breaks down barriers between people. I once played a game against a guy who he was French, he didn't speak a single bit of English. I don't speak any French, and yet we managed to play a 40-minute game of Magic, managing to communicate fine with actions and words and gestures, and that was kind of eye-opening.
The sheet that I just filled out before is a deck list, and it's something that you have to do for each tournament, just to ensure that you're not switching your cards halfway through the round.
Thankfully, cheating is really obviously taken seriously. People get banned for life for 6, 7, 8 months.
There was an article written recently, and it said how you can shuffle in piles of 5, and it organizes the land cards perfectly. So you shuffle them in piles of 5, and then you riffle shuffle them a little bit, and it orders them exactly the way you want. But I just put it in piles of 7, because 7's a prime number. It's more random than putting into like 5 or 10 or 15. And then just shuffle it a little bit afterwards, and that gets pretty random. The good thing I find about the community is that a lot of people, they don't cheat, and they just aim to have a good time. I'm fucking doing horrid. Going 0-4 at the moment, winning 4 out of 12 games. Played some of the best Magic I've ever played, and then some of the worst I've ever played. But we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. Just got outplayed a bunch of times and made a bunch of wrong plays. But I was able to pinpoint where I did wrong, where I went wrong, and definitely I'm able to improve for next time. Once you go past round 3 and you've lost all your rounds, and you know you're not going to be playing in finals, it becomes a lot more chill and relaxed. So you'll screw up moves, they'll screw up moves, and that's fine because the stakes are a lot lower than they would be if you were playing for £600. £320 is a lot of money, so I probably would have either bought a bunch more cards or spent it on Eastern European travel over the winter. Because I didn't win, now I have to sell my cards, and hopefully that'll pay for hostels and trains. Yeah, I lost, but I didn't prepare as much as I could have, and the people that were playing there were very good at what they did, so at the end of the day, I had a good time, met a bunch of nice people, played some good games, and the games were quite close, which was good. But I don't know. Overall, losing was fine, and I had a good day.
I like to play with fire and I like to tempt fate, but I'm so terrified at the way she lacerates. Her drunken poetry will leave me breathless, and I love the way we play a mature chemist.